You know, after the chamber only, when we discuss. Just from coming on the way, I just read the decision of Supreme Court, which was on 66A. I think because that is at the top of town for last 2 weeks. The decision matter of the Shreya Senkal. She is a law student, 24 years old. She, along with many NGOs, have filed this petition on the freedom of speech. The court, so an interesting observation the court has made. It says that when interpreting 2 words of the section, they say that judicially trained minds can come to diametrically opposite conclusions on the same sets of facts. It is obvious the expression grossly offensive and enhancing are so great that there is no manageable standard by which people can be said to have committed an offense or not to have committed offense. Quite obviously, a prospective offender of the section 66A and authorities who are to enforce section 66A have to absolutely no manageable standard by which to book a person for offense under section 66A. The learned judges of Supreme Court also say that there is the mind which is trained in the law can also come to very diametrically opposite things. We find many things, the way the implementation of law is there, we find same thing would happen on the assessment proceedings which are completed in the month of March. And we will also come to many of those things in the years to come. The object of this study group is to understand the interpretation. And I think we are able to achieve this with the seniors like Keshav Bhujle, who takes us to the and makes us understand the law, what is there, and how things to be interpreted. At Chamber, we are organizing various programs. For the first time, Chamber has organized a program on NBFC. The laws relating to NBFC have been amended in last 6 months. And first time at Chamber we are doing it, it's on the 18th of next weekend. Where the duties are casted on the auditors also, because many times it is happening, it is observed, RBI send the notices to the auditors. Whether the company is registered as NBFC or not, but you get a notice saying that why you are not classified this company as NBFC. Many of you would have received notice. In Mumbai, in last 3 months, around 4,000 notices have been issued. It's a yearly exercise which RBI does it, but in last 3 months, around 4,000 notices has been done. Just to abreast the members on this, we have this program. So everybody is requested to take a benefit of this. On the 18th, we also have another, it's a musical evening, announcement already made. I request all to participate in the informal atmosphere, because whenever we meet, we always discuss on the topic or the subject, but on the informal atmosphere, we want to discuss not on the subject, but we will discuss the music. Join us for this program on 18th. The details are available in the newsletter. With this few words, I hand the proceedings to Chairman Shri Ashok Sharma.
Mr. President, respected seniors and friends, I welcome you for this study group meeting. Our speaker, I have a pleasant task of introducing our speaker. Of course, we know he is a regular speaker, our past president, MSc LLM, practicing in tribunal and high court, giving lectures at various forums like BCA, Federation, WIRC, writing articles in various professional journals. Friends, whenever I request him, he readily agrees. I call the person like Mr. Keshav Bhujle, as far as our study circle and study group is concerned, pillars of the study circle and study group, because they are always readily agree to our request. Whenever he thinks for a minute, I tell him you are regularly writing in the BCA journal on the column in the High Court. So you are every month you are ready. So only the thing you have to find out the time for us one evening and discuss the cases, and he readily agrees. With this, I present before you Mr. Keshav Bhujle and request you to welcome it with loud applause. Before I request him, I will request Paras President to offer a memento as mark of our love and remembrance.
फोटो नहीं है रिप्ले नहीं सर दिस इज फॉर द
because you have to sorry, because you have to speak for 1.5 hours, so of course memento.
If the photograph was not to be there, you would have given me this one. Good evening, friends. Thanks for the kind words, Ashok Sharma. As the President said, that this is a meeting for discussing judgments of the courts on tax. I have selected a few, two from Supreme Court and some from judgments of the High Courts and also from the Tribunal, five decisions of the Tribunal. We try to analyze those judgments and try to find out what more we can discuss on it. The first judgment of the Supreme Court, Taparia Tools Limited, it's a case where upfront discounted lump sum interest on debentures in lieu of periodical payments is payments. The question is whether the full lump sum will be allowable as deduction in the year of payment or it has to be deferred. In this case, the debenture interest was, there were two alternatives: periodical half-yearly payments at the rate of 18% or lump sum discounted interest of 55%. The SSC had in the books shown it, books of accounts, deferred these amount for the period of 5 years. However, the question was whether the SSC can claim the full amount as a deduction in the first year itself, that is year of payment. The Supreme Court has said that yes, it is deductible in the year of payment itself. This reminds us judgment of the Supreme Court in Madras Industrial Investment Corporation Limited versus CIT 225 ATR 802, wherein discount on debentures was written off over a period of the debentures and it was allowed to be as a deferred revenue expenditure over the period of the debenture. So the question that would arise, is it a choice? Both the cases are somewhat similar. Is it a choice with the SSC or is there any different way of looking at it? Prima facie, one judgment says that it is allowable as deferred revenue expenditure. Another judgment says in the year of payment itself it can be allowed, in spite of the fact that in the accounts you had shown it as deferred. So this is exactly the other way of round judgment which helps us in deciding the case. Any query? Any issue?
Madras Industrial was discussed? In this judgment, Madras Industrial was discussed?
I have not checked.
it was considered.
It was considered.
In this decision, what I recollect is that they said that though assets in the books of accounts they are spread over the period of year, but in the return they are claiming. So what is mentioned in the return, assessing officer need to accept it and he has to proceed whether what is mentioned in the return is as per law or not. Since that is as per law, it should be allowed a deduction.
Idea where previous we deducted of this discounted payment.
Yeah.
Interest will be discounted, no? So whether that on interest component that we will call discounted, previous required deducted or not?
It is to be deducted, no? Either credit or payment, whichever is earlier.
You will have to deduct it.
No, only the thing what Dilip Bhai's question was ki how they have dealt with Madras.
No, they said that in the decision, because here the case where that there are two parties were there, where they have accepted the option was given to the SSC, and the two have accepted the option, therefore lump sum payment was given, and others that was not given. So others have claimed, for others it was yearly payment, and for this there was 55% of the total paid over the 5 years was given. And they said that here we are aware of the decision of the other decision also, but here what SSC has claimed it. If that is within the four corners of law, then they should allow a deduction.
Okay.
That is the words which are there.
That gives a choice to the SSC,
Yeah.
either to claim it on deferral basis or otherwise. Can't hear me properly? Well, the second judgment is Queen's Education Society's case. This is of the Uttarakhand the appeal from the Uttarakhand High Court. As against that, Punjab and Haryana High Court, Pine Grove International Charitable Trust case, which is reported in 327 ITR 273. These two judgments were considered by the Supreme Court. The difference in the view, in case of Queen's Educational Society, Uttarakhand High Court held that the society was applying income earned from running of the school on fixed assets to expand the institution. So there was a profit, and that profit was used for expanding the institution. The Uttarakhand High Court held that it is a profit motive, and therefore the SSC is not entitled to exemption. As against that, the Punjab and Haryana High Court held that if there is a surplus for over 4 or 5 years after meeting the expenditure, it is not a disqualification. The question is whether the institution applying profits wholly and exclusively for objects for which it was established is to be seen. That is the judgment of the Punjab and Haryana High Court. And further it said that the expenditure on acquisition of capital assets would not form part of the total income. That means it is allowable as deduction. So, Supreme Court reversed the judgment of the Uttarakhand High Court and upheld the judgment of the Punjab and Haryana High Court on the point of what is profit making. The Supreme Court briefly held that the predominant object test must be applied. The purpose of education should not be submerged by a profit making motive. It further held that the tests which have been laid down by the Supreme Court in 3 judgments it has cited. In Surat Art Silk Cloth 121 ITR 1, Aditnar's case 224 ITR 310 and American Hotel and Lodging 301 ITR 86. The principles laid down by these judgments will have to be considered, and what is to be seen is the predominant purpose, and just not because there is a surplus, therefore it will be amounting to profit motive and you will lose the exemption. This is briefly the sum and substance of the judgment. This Uttarakhand High Court judgment was little damaging, which has been reversed. The next judgment is a case of amalgamation of companies. Now coming to the High Court judgment. The amalgamated company ceases to exist on amalgamation. And after amalgamation, it is the amalgamated company which exists, and an assessment is required to be made on the amalgamated company and not the amalgamating company. That is, an assessment made on a dead person would be void. The same way, in this case, the assessment was made on the amalgamating company and it was held to be invalid.
So what will happen in the case that shows there are two periods.
Yes.
When amalgamating company was in existence and amalgamated company also.
Yeah.
So both the assessment will be made on the amalgamated company after the dissolution.
Appointing date in the title.
After the
Only after final date, but that's
after
the period of assessment is prior to final date.
yes.
Then what will happen? So say assessment proceedings, say let's suppose prior to the final date are made now. So they will be made in the name of the amalgamating company or amalgamate both in the amalgamating company. If you say that, then all board
For-
assessment will also be continued in the name of the amalgamating company.
Yes. Whatever that will be continued, it will be continued in the name of the amalgamated company.
So single
Formerly, yeah, before amalgamation, it is mentioned this was the company, and after amalgamation, this is the company. Next is the judgment in case of block assessment in case of a third person under section 158 BD. There is a procedure required to be followed. The assessment is, in the case of the main searched persons, will have to be completed under 158 BC first. In the course of such assessment, a finding may have to be given, and the records will have to be transferred to the assessing officer of that third person. The question is, after that assessment of the under 158 BC is over, is there any time limit or some restriction on initiating the assessment of third person? In this case, it took more than a year to issue notice to the third person. The court held that this is beyond the period of limitation. It should have been done immediately after the assessment in the case of the search parties. And 1 year's time, the court has held that the notice was not valid. Next judgment is in case of section 43B. It seems to be a simple one. Only thing which I want to point out, a number of judgments have come on this section 43B. That is, if the payment of the contribution is made before the due date for filing of the return, this principle which is applicable for employer's contribution, because 43B is restricting it, and that amendment has come. So far as employee's contribution is concerned, the question is whether 43B is the controlling section or 36 is the controlling section. Because 43B is not a section which allows you deduction. It puts a cap, a restriction on the deduction. Deduction is to be considered under section 36, and whatever that limitation which has been put under section 36, how far it will be useful, all the courts have taken a view, including the Bombay High Court, applying 43B as if it is a case of beneficial provision which allows you, in spite of the fact that there is a restriction under section 36. So that is the only thing which I wanted to point out. But consistent view that is been coming is that it is an allowable that particular, if the payment is made before the due date for filing of the return of income, then that deduction is allowable.
As you said, courts have interpreted like that. Even
Yes.
Supreme Court in alum exclusion also,
Yes.
there are some observations.
Yes.
Only one judgment, one order is passed by Mr. Sanjay Arora, where he has distinguished all this judgment, and he said time limit should be as per Provident Fund Act. Of course, when all the judgments are there, he has to follow that. But then, correct, if you see section, then actually what they say is have substance. because under 224 it's your income, and under 36 one they said they refer to the due date under Provident Fund Act.
Yes.
But now court having taken favorable view,
Yes.
that should be followed, and that
Yes.
will be followed.
Yes.
Except that one judgment is there where he has distinguished all these judgments.
But can it be said that once it is disallowed under 36,
Yeah.
by virtue of 224(10), it takes color of contribution of employers because it is merged with employer's contribution.
Maybe that may be angle. I mean,
And
that is
from
why.
that angle 43B comes into play.
No, but then you are not giving meaning to 36(1)(5) says it under due date under Provident Fund Act.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It is disallowed.
Yeah.
But by virtue of 224(10), it becomes income of the assessee, the income of the employer.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
does it take colors of employer's contribution and simultaneously 43B is
No,
applicable?
no. It does not take. It is
It's only interpretation of the responsibility.
It becomes income of the assessee, employer.
income of the employer.
3615 is not permitted, but.
Thereafter again for a deduction 36 only you have to go.
No, but then I am claiming deduction under 43D rather than
43B is not
I am
allowed.
disallowing under 36.
43B is not a provision allowing you deduction.
Agreed.
Ah.
But by virtue of 224(10),
The deduction is also allowable
it is
under
merged
section
with income
36.
of the employer.
No, deduction is allowable under section 36.
43B covers only employer's contribution, doesn't
Agreed.
touch employee's contribution.
My question is that once the 224(10) is applicable, is it merged with the employer's contribution?
No, nonetheless, you are
By virtue of
paying.
considering this as income of the assessee,
No.
employer?
But what you are paying is employee's contribution only, and that you are paying. You are.
Even the employee's contribution is
But
paid by the
but
employer.
as I said, that controversy doesn't remain now.
Once the question of disallowance arises under 36,
No, even after, before that, it is the income of the SSC only. It's what it, the employee's contribution is paid by the employer only. So he is doing it from the income only. So you are trying
Then-
to change the color again.
Anyway, but I think we need not, because all other judgments are accepting. After that judgment
Yeah.
also, they are accepting that proposition.
Next judgment, of course, a simple one. It's a case of a SSC who are given subcontract for manufacturing under the brand name of the SSC. He hires certain molds and gives it to those contract manufacturers without charging anything. If he had charged, then that would have been set off, and then again the cost of that the products would have been increased to that extent. The claim of the SSC for higher charges of those molds was disallowed by saying, this is the question which you have charged, which should have charged to the contractors, and they should have claimed it. Of course, I don't think there is much of issue on this. The court held that it is allowable as deduction in the hands of the SSC itself. The next judgment of the Andhra Pradesh High Court. This is a case of special bench decision in case of Merlin Shipping, against which the High Court granted a stay. After the stay was granted, in the next matter, the tribunal, what it did is, it set aside the matter to the assessing officer and said, after the High Court decides, according to the High Court, pass the order. The matter came to the High Court, and the High Court took the view, well, this may be a subject matter which we can discuss a little. High Court took a view, in respect of the stay by the High Court, the special bench decision is binding on the tribunal benches, and either you have to follow it or should not follow it. You cannot say that you set it aside back to the assessing officer. Now, how far these two stands could be reconciled? Firstly, the special bench decision has been stayed. What is the meaning of it has been stayed? Can it have a power or effect of binding nature after it is stayed? But whatever it may be, the High Court has taken a view. What you have to say?
I think the stay applies to the SSC, then it should apply to each and every SSC in totality.
Because again, the stay is
It's
against
of the
order.
Stay of the order.
Order. Now that means that order is not operative.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if it is not operative, then that binding effect, how far it will be there. But again, this judgment is of the same High Court. The point is, this judgment is of the same High Court, says no, it is still binding on you. Fine. This is the only point which I wanted to bring. The next one is the simple judgment. Well, it's a lump sum payment for use of technology for a period of 6 years. Where the period of 6 years is there, whether it is an enduring nature or whether it is deferred revenue or it is revenue. Now here it has been considered that it is to be allowed in the first year itself.
Even after concept of intangible asset,
Even after
the concept introduced under 32 as intangible asset.
no, it is for the use of technology for a period of 6 years.
35AB से निकाल के intangible assets में लेके गए no हो.
Hmm.
So it means it is a capital asset and
No.
depreciation.
I don't say it is licensed being for permitting and for use. It is neither transferable nor payment.
All agreements for technical know-how is that way only.
No, it is not transferable.
All agreements are for, of that nature only. In most of the cases, the same conditions are there, but still it is capitalized and only depreciation is permitted.
Whether it is to be capitalized as a fixed asset, that would be the first question.
Hmm.
Understanding that it is not to be capitalized, that's why this question. I understand your question is, then first your question remains that whether it should be capitalized then.
Irrespective of the effect given into the account, because
So that is, this is after that. Yeah. I would still say that all your technology payments need not fall into your capital asset for the purpose of section 30.
But sir, what is my point? Irrespective of the effect given into the books of accounts, to determine true income, whether 32 comes into play or not.
No, 32 doesn't come into play because of determining your true income. 32 comes into play whether it's your capital asset and allowable under section 32. Depreciation allowable under section 32.
Once the technology payment is taken out from 35AB and put under 32 block asset, what will be the status?
No,
because
in
this
fact,
judgment is after
I would
introduction
not
of
agree with
intangible
that
asset.
all technology payments would fall into your capital asset. There could be some revenue nature also. This is what I am trying to say.
In this case, it has been held to be of revenue nature.
One judgment of MP High Court, I'm not aware, नाम मेरे को याद नहीं आ रहा, where it has been held that no, it will be under 32.
That particular payment could be. Just to take one example, if you recollect, we have on statute books are supposed to be capitalized. So that does not mean all nature of books what you are purchasing are supposed to be capitalized. Don't go with the nomenclature.
Even
The
if
books
in my
which are
books of
to be
accounts,
capitalized
I
will be
provide it as
allowed.
revenue expenditure.
Sorry?
And even in my books of accounts, I provide it as a revenue expenditure, claim the deduction. Then what is the status
For
of the claim?
this technology.
Whether the claim will be governed by 32 or whether the claim will be governed by 37.
See, in the case of music companies, the rights were given to music company for 10 years, 15 years, 15 years. All the judgments, some judgments of Bombay High Court also, that this is in the nature not as that time section 35 was there. He said this is not covered section 35. This is a nature revenue page. Therefore, they allowed the expenses. So first it has to come whether as
Whether it is capital or revenue. If it is
Capital
revenue,
revenue.
question is deferred or in the first instance itself.
Here they are specifically saying there is no acquisition with a capital asset. One thing. The other thing is
Same
there is a limit
fact,
of
same
6
fact,
years.
on the same facts, Bombay ITT in the case of my own associate has disallowed. That's what I'm making.
So 2 years are possible.
Yes, it is.
them is the opposition.
Next judgment is as regards the difference between business income and house property income. This is a case of software technology park. Rent from letting out buildings with amenities in software technology park is accessible as business income. Now, how far, taking into account the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Shambhu Investments. Here, briefly, what the court has taken the view. The SSE was engaged in the business of developing, operation and maintaining an industrial park and providing infrastructure facilities to different companies as its business. In view of that, the lease rent was accessible as business income. Now, for us, what we have to apply our mind. I think in the case of Shambhu Investment also, it was a case of a business center. 263 ITR 143 Supreme Court. And the court held that it is a house property income because mainly it is the building. Similarly, in this case, how far this will be contradictory to that Shambhu Investment judgment. Going to the next judgment of Bombay High Court, the case of Sambhajinagar Cooperative Housing Society Limited. This is a case of sale of TDR. The TDR was received as additional FSI as per DC regulations. Court held that it has no cost of acquisition and therefore it is not chargeable to capital gains tax. Now on TDR, what anyone can enlighten us, particularly in this case, it is held that it was received as additional FSI. So additional FSI means there is already existing FSI. As per DC regulations changes, there is an additional FSI on that. I do not, anyone can explain to me what is the meaning of TDR in such a situation. Or it is an additional FSI. FSI is generally attached to the land. It is not transferable. TDR is transferable. There is a slight distinction between TDR and FSI. FSI is attached to the land. Am I right or is there anything?
No. FSI, if you cannot utilize,
Yeah,
you cannot utilize your project,
right.
then as per the DC's rule,
It can be transferred.
like suppose there is some problem of the entrance,
Hmm.
you cannot construct two store,
Hmm.
up to 7 around.
Hmm.
About FSI is available, they say this is TDR, you can transfer to other project. So
Actually,
it is basically FSI only, out of which you can load on yourself, and other you can transfer to other projects. There are some rules to the north of Bombay or whatever.
Hmm.
So TDR is transferable development rights.
so
Which you
FSI,
cannot utilize or consume on your project.
so we have to consider this is a case of that type where it is an FSI only
Yes, it is FSI.
and it is transferable. And therefore the court held that because of the change in the DC rules, there is an additional FSI which has come into existence.
Correct.
Such an FSI which is transferred, there is no cost of acquisition. And the other type of TDR where you are surrendering your land to the municipality or for public purposes, wherein it is in lieu of that surrender of land, you get TDR, that is transferable. Now can we apply this?
TDR, you get more FSI. TDR concept is loaded when you get buy from somebody. TDR is always transferred.
No, particularly when land is transferred, then it ceases to be a
Transfer it to
FSI.
BMC or the
Yeah.
authority, and
Yes.
they allow you setback and more FSI.
That is the case for
Correct.
They are
compulsory
only using
activity.
FSI only. TDR you buy from somebody or give to somebody.
FSI
BMC
converted-
gives you FSI only.
Converted
BMC gives you additional FSI because of they call setback or set out. If you give your land for a road, then reserve or reservation.
Yeah,
The
for
BMC
reserve,
grants you FSI.
for reserve purposes.
That, that's not when you
I
don't
think so.
utilize
It's not from
it,
his
it's because of a
knowledge.
TDR.
What you are transferring is TDR
Right.
in the form of an FSI.
FSI.
Named as a TDR.
Named as a TDR.
But
No, I am trying to find out whether there is any distinction between such type of TDR and this TDR, particularly trying to find out whether this judgment will be applicable for all TDRs.
No, because that will
That
be,
is why-
what you
that
are
is why-
discussing is a case of compulsory acquisition,
Huh.
and their transfer is involved.
Hmm.
Modify comes into play, and then consequently, whatever is was your land cost and whatever is the value of that TD and the additional FSI,
Hmm.
that becomes a consideration and capital gain is calculatable.
So that is what I am trying to distinguish between the
Here
two.
the land is not transferred. They
No.
have been rented certain
In this case,
additional FSI and that
yes,
is sold
yes,
out.
yes, yes.
No, what there are other judgment also, Maheshwar Prakash and so Shelja Cooperative. Some judgments are discussed in this. What the tribunal's argument is, this you have not to pay extra. You cannot go in the market and purchase TDR. Because of the change in the DC regulation, you got this and therefore there is no cost. And since there is no cost, it is not liable. That is what the tribunal's argument is. In Maheshwar Prakash, it is discussed in a very great length. Of course, those judgments, those appeals are pending in Bombay High Court. This has been.
sir, here the issue of you raise the issue that what do you mean by additional FSI?
Yeah.
Here, knowing this case, whatever FSI was available as per the DC rules when they had redeveloped the project, entire FSI was used. Thereafter, because of the change in the DC regulations, additional FSI was allowed to the developer on the land. So they have used the word additional FSI was available. Now, since
I'll tell you.
for the purchase, originally the cost paid was as per the DC rules prevailing erstwhile. So the entire FSI was used. And now that because of the change in the regulations, you are getting more FSI, which either you could have constructed some additional floor on the existing building,
Right.
or you could have sold, or an option available, you can sell that by way of a TDR. That's why they use the word additional. The main question would arise that whether still there is some cost attributable
That is
to
the
that or not. The courts have said that there is no cost.
Hmm.
Can you apply A.R. Krishnamurti and said because of land only ultimately you got it. So A.R. Krishnamurti said merely because there is a difficulty in calculating the cost, you can't bifurcate, still capital gain is payable, 176 ITR. But that courts are taking, that we all tribunals are taking, and as I said, this matter of Maheshwar etc. are pending in the Bombay High Court.
This is university also is applicable in this field.
That is what based on that only. Based on that only.
No, it does not say that you cannot calculate.
You cannot work out it.
It says
There is no cost.
there was no cost.
No cost.
There is a difference between you are not able to calculate and there is no cost. BCC must follow the rule that there is no cost.
There is no cost. Here also there is no
Whether
cost.
here can we apply that rule? That's the precise
No cost at all can be conceived. No cost at all can be conceived. What do you?
Cost can.
No cost at all can be conceived.
Yes.
That is what we. I think you can discuss it for the benefit of all.
Yeah, Bharat.
Whatever you are discussing
Yeah.
can be for the benefit of all.
Yeah.
Mike.
So here we are
Mike,
assuming a
Mike,
fact.
Mike.
So we are assuming a fact
Yes.
that there was an FSI. The building has utilized the entire FSI. In the future, there is a change in the DC rules. There is an additional FSI, and that additional FSI is getting converted into TDR. Now, the very fact that additional FSI can be converted into a TDR, I really have doubts, because if that was the case, then all the old buildings would move and take that TDR and sell it in the market. Is that the? I just want to understand whether
No,
that can be done.
I'll explain you, like where their building is there for last 100 years. Our own society went for development, not through builder. So FSI were available. So we were allowed by KMC to construct 10 floors.
Right.
Now because of some notification, we cannot construct above 3 floors. Only 7. So they say 3 floors is your TDR, you sell it to some other client. This building is
Okay.
constructed prior to 91. This DC rule came in 91. So now instead of let's say 2 floors, we are constructing 10 floors. Because of additional FSI available in 91.
Right.
Now we cannot construct 3 floors because of some regulation. So 3 floors, this TDR is available, you can sell it.
So maybe for some other conditions, you are not able to consume
Correct, that's what I'm saying.
entire
Other
FSI.
conditions, road approach, road widening, or whatever, like you can't.
Airport
construct-
restrictions.
So that's why this TDR comes into play only in such cases. Otherwise you will construct on your own, normally. Because of some restriction, you can't consume the entire FSI.
So then that happens only at the event of construction, right? I was just thinking of a view where whether if I have an old building, it has an FSI, but can I just convert that additional FSI into a TDR without even reconstructing it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 1991 you got already additional FSA. You consume yourself, what you say?
Or you can say.
It's really transparent.
How the concept arose,
With
you
certain
cannot
restrictions.
develop. That's why that TDR concept came about TDR. Earlier it was not.
Even for open plot, you can transfer it to somewhere else.
Small query here. Suppose there is a land and the BMC has taken for road widening as per the DC rules. And you have got a TDR which you have sold. It's not, no cost has been spent for acquiring. Now, is there any difference if the land is held as stock in trade instead of a capital asset? If it is a capital asset, it is exempt. Now, whether if the land is held as a stock in trade by the owner or the construction company, whether it will be still exempt or taxable?
I somewhere feel like the concept of no cost is only coming from taking out of charity.
Yes.
So if that is
Or capital gain.
reserve income, then it is going to tax.
Or if I just, because I know I have made an application for this TDR, it takes some time, couple of years.
Yeah.
And in the intervening period, I convert my land into that plot of land which
Into a capital asset.
generates into a capital asset.
And then we'll have.
Then I get the allotment of the TDR. It's a capital asset at that point of time. Maybe I know that I am making an application, before that I convert my stock in trade into a capital asset.
But if we can say that, the application was predetermined, so that it was prior to conversion into stock in trade, then we can apply that provision to bifurcate that to this is in a capital asset. Otherwise, okay.
We go to the next judgment. Next, of course, this is concerning section 54 EC, whether that investment of 50 lakhs, can you take the benefit of spreading it into 2 periods, 2 years, 50 plus 50. In this case, it was held that yes, if it is otherwise within the prescribed time limit, you have that benefit. Now the law is amended with effect from,
Upper cap is 50.
yeah.
Now upper cap is 50.
Yes, so it is prospective. Therefore, for the prior period, this decision would hold. Next judgment is as regards the, of course, conversion of a firm into a company. We have that judgment of the Bombay High Court and the Supreme Court in Taxpin's case, that there is no transfer and no capital gain liability. Now coming to the next one. Sir, section 50C applies. In this case, the land was sold for 10 lakhs and stamp duty value was 35 lakhs. The assessing officer adopted 35 lakhs. When the matter went to the High Court has taken a view that look, when this is the situation, the SSC cannot do anything, and therefore the SSC should have been given an opportunity, that is the opportunity of determining the valuation by the DBO. The High Court said that the assessing officer should take the initiative of referring the matter to the DBO in such a situation and decide the issue. So earlier, if you see the section 50C2, the wordings were slight confusing. Even when we make an application, whether it will stand or not. In this case, even without an application by the SSC, the High Court said the assessing officer should have referred the matter to the DBO for determination of the market value, so that section 50C will be accordingly applied. Any issue on this? I don't think so.
Only in the context of that, just because it got carried away, that nature of justice demands, is it because of that? Because otherwise subsection 2 will not hold good at all. It does not have any relevance.
No, it's all right. The subsection 2 is already there.
The SSC claims before an assessing officer that the value adopted or accessible exceeds as per the subsection 1. Now that claim should be
That
there.
is what the High Court has presumed, that the SSC has claimed it already. They have said that this has been sold by me at the market value.
So when we make a return, it is as good as paid.
Yeah, that's what the argument is.
So
You
the
are,
return itself is a claim.
yeah,
In
yeah.
that case, there should not be any initiation of penalty proceedings at all. The claim was there.
Yeah,
And for low value was there.
Claim for a lower value was there.
Was there.
and
So he
tribunals
has adopted
have,
higher value.
Yeah.
So no concern.
and,
So there is an
and,
inaccurate particulars.
and tribunals have deleted penalty in this such type of cases.
No, I am talking about
50C.
initiation.
Initiation.
Next judgment is as regards the word education, that is the charitable purpose education. This is a case of pre-sea and post-sea training for ships and marine industry. This is not a college or a school or anything of that sort. But this institute was doing a job of giving a training, and some of those courses were not approved by any board or anything. When this question of education comes, many a times we mix up the things. The word education as a charitable purpose has one meaning. And if we find this word for the purpose of section 11, we have section 1023C6, where the words used are educational institution, and 1023C4, where again charitable purpose word is used. Most of the time the department is taking the view, if it is a school whether affiliated to a board or whatever authority, a college affiliated to a university, or as per UGC these things. There are other regulatory authorities like AICTE. If it is otherwise than these, that will not be considered as education. Now this is one example where the Bombay High Court has held that in this case nothing of that sort, affiliation or anything of that sort is there. But there is a systematic training for the purpose of this thing. The court has taken the view that this is a charitable purpose, an education as a charitable purpose. The next judgment is that of the Delhi High Court. Now it is reported in 371 ITR 333 Delhi. Charitable purpose under section 215, the proviso, the scope of the proviso has been considered by the Delhi High Court in this case. India Trade Promotion Organization versus DGIT. And the court has tried to read down these provisions. I may just read some relevant part. In both the activities, in the nature of trade, commerce or business, or the activities of rendering any service in relation to any trade, commerce or business, the dominant and prime objective has to be seen. Remember, when we are going for a definition of charitable purpose, there is a principle which is applied. The dominant and prime objective always has to be seen. Now, even for the purpose of that proviso which speaks of trade, commerce or business, or service in the nature of trade, activities in the nature of trade, business, there also the court held that you will have to consider the dominant and prime objective has to be seen, and accordingly you will have to decide. Further, if the dominant and prime objective of the institution which claims to have been established for charitable purposes is profit making, whether its activities are directly in the nature of trade, commerce or business, or indirectly in rendering any service in relation to trade, commerce or business, then it would not be entitled to claim its object to be a charitable purpose. So again, there if it is a profit motive is there, then that will not be a charitable purpose. On the flip side, where an institution is not driven primarily by a desire or motive to earn profit, but to do charity through the advancement of an object of general public utility, it cannot but be regarded as an institution established for charitable purpose. Now this, the court has tried to read down that proviso itself. I do not know how far this is going to make a benefit. Secondly, now that the amendment which is coming rather, so what will be the state of affairs? That may be a question.
Prime object and ancillary object.
Yes.
Prime object is charity.
Yes.
Only incidentally you are making some gain.
Yes.
So still it should be eligible according to the High Court judgment.
Yes.
So it should not be very too much narrow. We have done some activity for profit, so we are not eligible under general law. I think we see then Chartered Accountant Institute, so many other standard institutes. We have given Delhi High Court series of cases.
Next, coming to the this thing.
Yeah, he's taking legal medicine. After this, I can. You finish this charitable, and then we
Charitable,
yeah,
finish.
finish.
Yeah.
Okay. Friends, now we have a speaker for our legal magazine. Mr. Kalpesh. He was admitted as an advocate in the year 2008. His academic qualification are Bachelor of Law, BCom. Then now working with senior advocate Mr. Arun P. Sathe. He is involved in litigation and advisory matter, appears before tribunal, High Court and CIT appeal, also in other courts like civil courts, etc. He has also appeared in few of the writ petitions. Now he will be dealing with the legal magazine. Before I request you to welcome him, Mr. Kalpesh. Please welcome Mr. Kalpesh. Before I request him, I request Dilip Bhai to offer a memento as mark of our love and remembrance. Mr. Kalpesh, please.
It is my humble request to all of them, please remind me to say thanks to all the committee members of the Chamber of Tax Consultants and Study Circle and Study Group before concluding my speech. Today we will discuss the legal maxim interest republica ut sed legislative. The legal maxims is basically a Latin language, is there in a Latin language. The Black Law Dictionary, the maxim means a traditional legal principle that has been chosen into a conscious expression. In a general meaning, the maxim means a short or pithy statements expressing a general truth or a rule of conduct. The legal maxims means a well-known phrase or saying which has been approved by the law. Today we are discussing the maxims which are basically used for the condonation of delay. We are all aware that the law of limitations are different, and the law of tax is a self-contained law, and the law of taxation law has given is a set rule of filing the appeals to the various authorities. Before we file the appeal before the CIT appeal, the time limit is 30 days, but somehow, some reasons, we couldn't file it within time. So these maxims are very helpful us to allow the delay by giving a sufficient reason. So we are discussing this legal maxim means it is in the interest of the state that there is be an end to the litigations. As per the taxation law, the land law, this maxim means it is for the general welfare that a period be put to litigations. We all aware that now High Court also have a power to condone the delay under section 260A2A, which is latestly amended. The first judgment which I will discuss with you, the Bombay High Court judgment, which reported in 312 ITR page 193, Ornate Trader versus Income Tax Officer. Here the Bombay High Court giving the direction to the Income Tax Department what is the sufficient reason for condoning the delay. The High Court is concluded that in his order that the delay in filing the department appeal under section 260A is condoned only in those cases where the delay is less than a year and it is being reasonably explained. In a case where the delay is beyond 1 year, condonation of delay is declined as there is no proper explanation and no sufficient cause is shown for the delay, and there is a apparent negligence on the part of the officers of the department. I will discuss that the sufficient reason is depend on the case to case and the party wise. There is no proper definition is given in any law or anywhere. See, what is meant by sufficient reason? The sufficient reason it can be the anything which can be produced before the authority. Then my next judgment is that Allahabad High Court, which is reported on 325 ITR 243, Subhash Malik versus Commissioner of Income Tax. Here, the law laid down that the law of limitation is ensured in the maxims which we are today discussed. The rule of limitations are not meant to destroy the right of the parties. Rather, the idea is every legal remedy must be kept alive for a litigate to fix a period of time. For the condoning the delay, the High Court held that the appeal is filed before the tribunal after the year of the passing of the order by the Commissioner of Appeals. The reason of the delay in this matter is that the assessee takes the rectification application before the CIT appeal, and that application is rejected, and after the application rejected by the CIT appeal, the appellant file an appeal before the tribunal. The tribunal rejects the application of condonation of delay of the assessee, saying that you have proceeds are wrong, and the time limit of filing the appeal is destroyed. In this matter, the High Court is remanded the matter before the tribunal, saying that the delay is a condoned because of the sufficient cause is there. The third judgment which I would like to discuss with you, which is another Allahabad High Court judgment, Auto Center versus State of Uttar Pradesh, reported in 278 ITR 291. Here, the appeal is filed by the appellant is a firm, and the two partners are there. So one of the partners is the age of 68 years. The approach of the tribunal, the High Court is held that the approach of the tribunal is a pragmatic, while in the matter of condoning of the delay, it should be a pragmatic and liberal. Admittedly, Srimati S, who is one of the partners in the firm, is the age of 68 years, and you was the only male partner. There may be reasons for signing the appeal filed before the CIT, which might be a long night. The appellant was carrying on the business in a Jhansi, and the appeal was to be filed at Agra. And for filing the appeal, so many formalities have to be carried, which require effective involvement and in a case a person is ill. It is not expected from him to get the appeal prepared and filed. The illness of you has not been disputed by the department. In these circumstances, the reasons given by the appellant for the delay in filing the appeal were sufficient and liberal view to be taken before discussing the condonation of delay application. Here also the High Court has remanded back the matter to the tribunal, saying that the reason is sufficient for the condoning the delay. The next judgment which I like to discuss is the Bharat Auto Center versus Commissioner of Income Tax, another Allahabad High Court judgment which is reported in 282 ITR 366. Before the condoning the delay, the High Court held that since an important legal point relating to a jurisdiction of the assessing authority was involved, the assessee sought a legal opinion of several counsels, which took a long time, and then a writ petition was filed, but subsequently the appeal was filed. After that, the reasons appears to be a sufficient for the delay. Delay ought to be have been controlled. The matter is also remanded back to the CIT appeal because the CIT appeal has not discussed properly this case with the direction that it should be discussed with the appeal. Also, I would like to discuss with the doctrine of laches, which is not there in my submission. the doctrine of laches, which gives us to the legal principles or a legal help or laws help to the person who are aware of the law. Who are not aware of the law, they are not helpers. The doctrine of laches, which is help to the person who are come before the court, knowing that all the legal principles as well as the legal theories. On that context, also so many High Court and Supreme Court judgments are there.
Thank you, Kalpesh. Thank you. Mr. Keshav, please.
There is one more judgment of charitable trust which I missed last week. This is a full bench judgment of the Allahabad High Court. The question is, there is a period of 6 months which has been given for disposal of application for registration under section 12AA 2. The words used are shall, whether that is mandatory, and in case it was not disposed, whether there can be a deemed grant of registration. The Allahabad High Court Division Bench earlier had held that in such a case there will be a deemed grant of registration. Now the full bench has taken the view that though the word used is shall, it is that disposal of period is not mandatory, and non-disposal of application before expiry of 6 months does not result in deemed grant of registration. Coming to the next one. Basically, that means it has no consequence. Full bench is. In case of income, of course this again is not a big one, where it is the mercantile system of accounting is followed. In the civil construction, sums which are retained for payment after expiry of defect-free period, there is a contingency after which it will be paid. To that extent, it has been held that it will not be income of this period, it will accrue only on receipt of the amount after that period. The next judgment in case of Darbhanga mentioned CHS, the principle of mutuality, here it has been held that the transfer fees received by cooperative housing societies from incoming and outgoing members, even in excess of limits, is exempt on the ground of mutuality. Arash, do you have any more thing on this? Because
No, only
Sindh Cooperative Society has followed,
Yeah.
but Sindh Cooperative Society
Only those observations are there, 2 lines are there, but
Yes.
if you read the whole judgment,
Yes.
and along with that Mittal Cooperative
Yeah,
and
yeah.
other 15-20 judgments
Yes,
were
yes.
delivered, everywhere they have said that there is mutuality and it should not be liable. Only in one case, Hatkesh Cooperative Housing Society, it was not, again Mr. Sanjay Arora has taken a different view. In spite of this Bombay High Court and various tribunal, dozens of tribunal judgments.
Yeah.
So what was the reasoning he has given? I think you appeared
He's
in
going
there.
on the reasoning that the incoming members are, earlier they are not called the outgoing are not going to be hence that is.
And profit motive also, those two lines he has picked up.
Yes.
Okay, if there is a more than 25,000, then there is a profit motive,
Yes.
and if there is a profit motive, then mutuality doesn't apply.
And nevertheless, the way Sanjay Arora writes, it is really convincing. I would not say that
What?
Convincing the way he writes the order.
No, convincing, but then he has to.
It is his view and let.
But law precedent. Now when Bombay High Court has said in so many judgments.
No, I'm saying the reasoning that he gives. Apart from the
yeah.
law precedent, he does not follow at all.
Gujarat High Court has the same reasoning actually. Gujarat High Court was saying that the incoming member, he was not member.
Not a member.
So mutuality, principle of mutuality is not
Not
applicable.
right.
But here in Bombay, both are that principle of maturity is applicable for both outgoing and incoming. That is the situation.
That in Walkeshwar Triveni also special bench that was holding a field for a long time. There also they took the same view. Incoming member, because he is not a member, mutuality. But then High Court has not accepted. They said ultimately he is going to become the member, and therefore it was allowed. And
There may be a question for outgoing, but I think so incoming is too fast because he is going to be a member and he is going to get the gains also.
Outgoing was already member.
So he is already
On the day of payment, he was a member.
again these matters are
When the
pending.
society started doing it, that the incoming member used to pay 50% of the share to outgoing member, and he in turn used to pay full amount to the society, just to avoid this litigation.
Again, these matters are also pending in the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court is fine with this.
Next is as regards the entertainment tax exemptions subsidy granted to the SSC engaged in the business of running multiplex cinema halls and shopping malls is the capital receipt. See, the entertainment tax exemption, it is available after it comes into operation. Here the question is, what is the object for which this exemption is granted? Whether it is before or after, that should not be considered. And here it has been held that it is to meet the cost of the acquisition of the assets, and therefore it is a capital receipt. The distinction which one tries to make is whether it is towards the capital or for compensating your loss of profit or for the purposes of revenue. Now in this case, there are other judgments also of similar line. I think Bombay High Court judgment is there, Gujarat High Court judgment is there, that it is held to be a capital receipt. Next judgment is as regards, yes.
Subsidy on account of gas. Gas subsidy. Whether it will be an income under 56 or
It's a bit.
gas subsidy, which we are getting now.
Gas subsidy.
Because the question arises when you have got a gift or something, in the normal currency we say gift, 48,000. Your subsidy during the year was 3,000. It becomes 51, so over 51 you have to pay it. Whether that 3,000 amount received as subsidy is an income under section 56 or not.
That's why Prime Minister has said that we should start following that dispute will not come.
Basically,
In the license, but I think even the President has raised this question earlier, saying that whether this subsidy would be an issue of litigation anytime in the future and whether we should make a representation beforehand. He has very rightly raised this question.
Because that it is
No,
there
is it not that it's compensating your regular
Yes, that's it.
expenses?
Yes.
So whatever you have paid, you are getting
Yeah.
something. What you
that
have
is
paid
not
is
the
not
case. That
debited
is
to
not
your
the case.
expenses.
That is not the case in the case of gas subsidy.
So I don't think so. That's the reason that should not be an income at all.
hardship
No, not ultimately, even if it's an advance or whatever, it's coming out of what you have making the payment for.
Yeah.
And that payment is not debited to your accounts anyway. Unless somehow you manage it.
Main amount is actual expenditure. On one side you can say gross is the expenditure and subsidy is income.
If at all.
Otherwise the net is expenditure. So therefore this is not taxable. But the reason given is different capital receipt, which is not possibly restricted.
No. Well,
We are not talking about capital issue.
no, he is talking about
Gas subsidy.
Gas
subsidy. हमारा bank account
Yes.
में जा-
Yes, subsidy is actually capital receipt. That is CJ capital is clear. Cash subsidy.
Yes,
Yes.
not cash. Yes.
Future
Aadhaar card link
EPF,
है, वो
Aadhaar card.
याद है?
That is a problem. Because they are not claiming expenditure.
it's not claimed as an expenditure. So the next one, of course, what is reading here is quite simple. The SSC, where SSC itself is not shareholder of the lending company, addition made by AO invoking provisions of 222E was not sustainable. Now, this principle is known to us and the judgments are there. In this case, the SSE was a 50% shareholder in a company L, and L had advanced money to one N company, and in turn N company advanced the money to SSE. So it was not a direct loan from that particular company L where he had 50%. The question is whether in this case the tax avoidance principles or anything of that sort will apply. The strict interpretation has been adopted and the court has held that this principle will apply. SSE is not a shareholder of N company and therefore there will be no addition under 222. In one of the cases, unfortunately, the SSE had a sister concern. SSE is a partnership group, and it had shares in that sister concern. SSE wanted loan from bank. There were some difficulties of getting loan. The sister concern took the loan from bank and gave that loan to the SSE. Provisions of section 222E were applied, which was a mistake which has happened. This is exactly the reverse case, and there is no applicability of 222A. The next two judgments are of a similar line. That is a case of sales tax deferral scheme. We are aware that under the sales tax law, if you are having a unit in rural areas or different conditions are there, you get a benefit of deferral of sales tax. You are allowed to pay sales tax after a period of time, say after 5 years, 10 years, whatever that time. Say if 100 rupees is to be paid today, you are collecting it, but you are allowed to pay it after 5 years or 10 years. This is the first part of it. The second part of it, then another scheme comes where an option is given to the SSE for premature payment of the net present value. So if sales tax is 100 rupees, I am allowed to pay it after 5 years. Thereafter it says that 100 rupees after 5 years, what is the net present value? Say if it is 45 rupees or 55 rupees. If I pay 55 rupees, I will be cleared from that liability. Now what happens to the difference of 45 rupees? Effectively, whether this is a case of cessation or remission of liability of 45 rupees. On the face of it, it seems that it is a case of waiver or cessation of liabilities. The courts have taken the view, so it is not a cessation or remission of liability under section 41(1) because it is under the scheme. First scheme is foolproof, the second scheme is foolproof, and these two are not to be clubbed together, and no liability, and therefore the difference is not deemed income under section 41(1). Same in the next judgment also. Yes.
Writing of I have a credit to profit or loss, but income is the calculation.
Not to be treated as a particular.
Like it has to be reviewed in computing the full amount.
And pay lesser amount. So it will be right. If it is not revision or sales, then full expenditure will be allowed and this is already managed. That's it.
Yeah. But this yes.
Not my income, but ultimately I have a credit to profit and loss.
All credits are your income.
But is the reasoning given in the judgment? Why they said?
Because the reasoning is sorry.
What is the reasoning given in the judgment? Why it is not exceptional liability? What is the reasoning?
There is no cessation of liability as such. Liability is not ceased. It is the present value. If I am required to pay after 5 years,
This is basically discount.
Yeah.
it is the present value. It is the present value of that.
Or you can say I am preparing, so there is a cash discount type of. Not exactly cash discount, this kind of nature. So why should not be my income? That can be treated.
No, that is the reason this judgment has been taken, to find out what we will discuss on this.
No, but yeah, basically, otherwise you would have paid it in a phased out manner for
Yes.
5 years.
Yes.
So either for that purpose you would have used the company's fund. Now you have either taken a loan or by way of what you have opted this benefit.
Yes.
So this is not to be treated as your income following that discounting method, as discounting method. Whatever they worked out and then they offered that IRR, some of that method they follow and they worked out. So therefore they say that under, it's not your cessation of your liability. Per se, if you ask, yes, his question is that if it is not an income, then either it should not fall in the definition of income, this receipt should not fall, or it's a capital receipt. It does not mean anything. So does it not come out of your regular course of your business? It is.
Otherwise, the interest is received by you, na?
But sorry?
Otherwise, the interest is received by you, na?
Difference
Difference is the interest received, na?
So
Interest,
in
discount,
that you can call it whatever. It's a discount that you have been able to achieve by way of early payment. But we have this judgment in favor of ultimately, and not only this, we have other also.
Accounting you will have to explain.
Can we go step ahead? If because of this you have borrowed certain funds on which you are paying interest, can that interest be disallowed since this is not liable to tax?
Interest will not be disallowed. 3613. That it would not. You are trying to invoke 14A. You are trying to invoke 14A.
No, it is not an exempted.
So that's what I am saying. Then why it will be
Yes,
disallowed?
well, can assessing officer said since that was not taxable, so this is not also not
Allow
allowed.
interest either is it for your
It is for your business purpose.
In fact, this decision is only considering part aspect, whether it is decision of liability. So whether it is income, otherwise or not is not considered. Therefore, it is not discussed at all.
Yes.
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 That's an issue.
Yes. So it could be, as you
Yes,
said,
that what is
sort of a discount.
Next judgment is on penalty. This is a case of penalty under section 271D. Loan or deposit in cash exceeding prescribed limit. Here, the payments have been made by the partners in cash to the firm. Under the income tax law, partners and firm are different entities. Now the judgment has taken, in this case the court has taken the view that the firm and partners are not different entities. However, when it comes to cancelling the penalty, the court has taken that it is a reasonable cause. The principle of reasonable cause, relying on 273B, it has held that the penalty will not be imposable.
Reasonable cause means it was necessary for the partner to introduce the capital. There was urgency, is it like that? Or it's not in the nature of loan or
That's the point. The court has that
What?
this is not a loan.
loan, yeah.
The first view is that it is not a loan, this thing.
Yeah.
That because it is a partners and firm are not different.
Not
entities.
different, yeah.
Cannot be.
Yeah. It's a
Second
introduction
part is
to
there is a
capital.
reasonable cause.
Okay. Both the
Yeah.
Both the things.
yeah.
No, if it's not a loan, then the provisions of
Yes,
interest
yes,
and
yes,
interest will not apply.
Will not
applicable.
Then the question of
Reasonable cause
Reasonable will not come.
should not come.
I think earlier also the judgments are on the similar line.
I am just surprised that why it has developed the law also. That if it's not a loan,
Yeah.
So the same principle apply to HUF individual partner.
then it can.
Because these are two legal entries only for a tax purpose. Otherwise, HUF and the co-partner or member, same principle they have.
Yes. Next judgment is as regards recovery of tax under section 179. The recovery proceedings were taken on the ground of non-filing of returns by the company. Well, this is a case where the court took the view that there is no allegation of misfeasance, negligence, gross negligence, a breach of duty on the part of the directors, due to which the tax dues of the companies could not be recovered. And the court has given the relief that saying that section 179 is not applicable. Next judgment is concerning under garnishee proceedings under section 226(3), where recovery of rent is to be made. In this case, the petitioner is a bank and S was the owner of the premises. For recovery of tax dues of S, the rent was attached. After that was done, the TRO took the initiative of enhancing the rent, increasing the rent on its own. The court took the view that TRO does not have that power. It has to be as per the agreement between the landlord and the tenant, and not unilaterally on some basis that you increase the rent and you try to recover that amount from the tenant. Coming to the next judgment, a case of search and search, in which case the assessment proceedings under section 153A have been commenced. The question is whether 263 provisions could be invoked by the Commissioner. The view taken here is once 153A commences, everything is open before the assessing officer to tax everything and try to find out what is the total income. Nothing is hidden. And therefore, the Commissioner does not have power to invoke section 263. So one of the reasons,
Sorry.
yes,
No, I was just asking, sir. This 263 is applied on the assessment
original
order passed.
already passed, yes,
So now this 263 is not, once the notice is issued
yes,
over.
yes.
All prosecutors are.
Whether the similar principle can we say that for 148 it will apply? 147, 148? But under 147 also once
All
notice is
proceedings
issued.
under the Act are available.
In case of 153A. Yeah.
In 53A,
The
C, whatever.
original this thing get completed. That is one reason. But here the reason given is that it is open to the assessing officer under 153A to assess everything, and therefore there is nothing left out for the Commissioner to do it.
After
But similar is the situation under 147.
open for particular issue only.
147 everything is open.
Yes,
No,
no,
I-
is an include X, so bogus purchases.
No, 147 everything is open. 147 also everything is
To
open.
the place and there is a question.
addition on that particular form, suppose is not able to make any addition on that.
Against
particular
150
form,
PA, 147
then
can be.
Travels beyond that 147.
That is okay, that is Jet Airways. But then Sun Engineering says,
No,
his point is when yes, assessment is
Where the
reviewed,
validity of the proceeding.
the whole assessment is open. Don't go on that reasoning and all
Yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
No, no,
Then
where-
same principle
everything
whether
is
can be
open.
applied. Paper writer can throw some light.
Can we take the same view that this is
Even certain allowances
Sir,
have been
sir,
considered in
all
original order, we can
158
reconsider.
proceedings Cannot lead to cover all the undisclosed income which are already
Yes.
taken note by the CIT or which is already appearing in the books. Somehow which has remained, which has
Under
remained.
153? Under
for 153A, supposing no incriminating documents were found during the search proceeding.
Yes.
However, still he will have to make an assessment because of
Yeah.
it's covered 132. He will have to make an assessment in 132.
Yes.
Now we have series of judgments which says that if no incriminating documents are found,
Then 153
Yeah, but
may
that
fail.
will be an
he will
argument
have
in
to
the
pass an order
153A
under
proceedings.
153A. But however, he will not be able to do any addition. So in such type of cases, even if 147 is not allowed, then how would he cover those type of incomes?
No, I'm on
See, 153A, you are filing a fresh return.
Under 147, I am referring to 263.
Yeah.
Whether once 147 is commenced, whether 263 would be barred so far the original assessment.
No, but his question is asking 150, that earlier original proposition, 153A and 263, whether that itself is okay. That's what he's asking, is it?
That is what you want to say?
Yeah.
Logic is same. Why no one? This is the why no one? On the both 153A, 147.
Sir, I
No.
think the proviso is very clear, which says that all the proceedings which says the word or assessment or reassessment, if any, shall avail. So apply that
So
proviso
far as 153A is concerned.
as far as 153A is
Yes,
concerned.
yes.
So even 147 will
So
avail.
your ground is there because all those proceedings shall abate. Now those itself do not exist, therefore 263 will not be applicable.
Should be, yes.
If that is the logic, then yes, there is a distinction between 147 and 153A. But here the reason
No,
given
but
is-
only pending assessment get abated.
Yeah.
Not
Notice
completed.
which is already
But the 6-year time,
issued.
then
is
the
pending.
taken also not.
Sorry?
For 147, the notice which is already issued is pending. So that abates. Now that sir,
What about the assessments which are made?
That under 153A.
assessment
That also abates, no? All pending assessments.
All pending assessments
No,
appeals.
only pending
Yes,
assessment.
pending
But
assessments.
completed
The
assessment?
assessments which are made.
They
Yeah, but
cannot pay.
with
They
respect to
are already
those
completed.
six
They
years.
are already completed.
You are filing a fresh
It is
return.
pending in appeal or whatever. No, that was one part. Now sir has asked the second part. Now the second part gets abated, whether including documents are found or not.
But in this case, this is 153A order passed or was the previous assessment?
Original.
Original.
Original
Original.
assessment was that.
Original.
Wait, original assessment.
Fine. We now come to the tribunal decisions. The first is as regards grant of registration under section 12A. Whether the conditions under section 13 could be applied or not. In this case, one of the objects of the trust was limited to the benefit of Jain community, and so it was considered by the commissioner that 13(1)(b) violation is there, and once that is there, there is no question of granting exempt deduction under section 11. Therefore, he refuses to grant registration under section 12A. The tribunal held that no, you can't at that stage apply 13. You will have to see only the other provision, and 13 will be applicable only when you are dealing with section 11. Coming to the next decision. Again, next decision is again the question of business income or house property income, where the SSC company developed shopping malls and business centers on properties owned by and let out same by providing host of facilities in said business center. Income derived therefrom was business income. Now this is directly questionable as regard judgment of Supreme Court in Shambhu Investments. Next.
There's no facility where
Yes.
the whole
Where?
amount equivalent to market price was recovered as a deposit.
No, facilities were also given.
Facility was very limited.
Table
There
space.
was so many series of facility, amenities. I think that is the only distinguishing.
That is the distinguishable factor.
And Shambhu is has been considered in various subsequent judgments.
Some wall or 2-3 cases, they have
Yeah.
considered also.
Next is as regards revision, order can be only passed on ground. I think this is something which is well known to us, which the SSC has been given reasonable opportunity of being heard, and it is not open to the Commissioner to set out one reason for revising order, but actually revise order on some other ground. This is well known. Next one is as regards the capital gains. The provisions of section 50C do not apply in case of transfer of leasehold rights in land or building. Coming to the last one, whether it is a house property income earned by SSC from renting of terrace for installation of mobile antenna was taxable as income from house property, and therefore deduction of 30% is available. Now there is a judgment of the Delhi High Court in the similar line, and this is a Delhi Tribunal decision. But for that, I think this is a matter of debate one can consider.
Delhi High Court is citation is there?
No, I don't have the
Okay,
citation.
okay.
Yeah.
But in Bombay also they are allowing, Bombay tribunals are allowing this income from house property.
There is.
Yes.
So you
Some part of
what,
the
what
property.
you have to what you will have to consider.
Some part of the property is given. But
So any view otherwise?
Whereas in a hoarding के लिए देते हैं तो क्या होता है? उनको तो आपको पता नहीं होता।
Holding is different. They have some courts that have it, that private tribunal, that if you are putting a holding on the wall, then it is you are not renting out the building. The building has to be space, so it's a wall which has been used, which otherwise cannot be used for your any other purpose. Of course, they have not mentioned any other purpose, but they said it's a wall there, it's not the space that you have to use.
But in China also they put some
Some pillars,
Yes,
they make
terrace.
they erect some.
not the full terrace. No?
They erect, but what is the base? What is the base on which they erect?
Terrace.
That's a terrace, which
That
is
is
a
not
space
a-
again of the building. So that's the distinction.
Good.
In line with it.
With this, I thank you all for your participation and patient hearing.
first the announcements. Our next study circle meeting is on 16th April on appellate proceedings, where Mr. Ajay Singh will be the speaker. Kindly note the venue for the same is 20 downtown, that is Eros Theatre building, because this hall is not available on 16th. So it is Eros Theatre building, 16th April, 6:15. The timing as are given, kindly check the timing, because snacks will just see when we can serve. That or we will send the SMS. As far as the International Tax Study Circle meeting is concerned, that is on 27th April. The topic is attribution of profits of permanent establishment. The venue is Kilachand Hall, and the speaker is one Mr. Abhay Sharma from Khaitan and Company. Coming to the pleasant task of before vote of thanks, I give it to Mr. Dinesh Bhai. Thank you, Kalpesh. Though Kalpesh appears in the courts regularly, it was his maiden appearance before us, and he gave the relevant judgments. Of course, we are not to delay the appeal, but in case the clients have delayed, those judgments will be useful. As far as Mr. Keshav is concerned, as I said, is always ready with the note I was seeing is very exhaustive. Thank you once again. And now I request Dinesh Bhai to propose a formal vote of thanks.
On Friday, Vipul Joshi will deliver talk on recent judgment at
No, not on recent judgment. It is real estate. Yeah. 43 CA, 50 C, etc.
Friday.
50C.
That is on 17.
17th of the
Fourth
April
floor.
from the fourth floor and 6 is 15.
17 Issues related to immovable property. More particularly keeping in mind 43 CA, 50 C and section 56.
I propose hearty vote of thanks on behalf of Chamber of Tax Consultants to Sri Keshavbhai Gujresa, advocate for masterly analysis to various direct taxes judgment with vast knowledge and experience. We have benefited from. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time in spite of very busy schedule. Thank you very much, sir. I also propose hearty vote of thanks to Mr. Kalpesh Saralkar, advocate, for explaining Latin principle with help of various case law. He has taken very good subject when we are in filing appeal. It has great practical utility. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, how are you, sir? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
इसके लिए कुछ है?
इतना तो पूछ लिया
है देखा
Yes. But back. I'll just.
कैसे हो? तबीयत मजे में?
ऑल वेल। नहीं, आप दोनों को भी धन्यवाद। ये मैजिक सर है।
I'll just sit. Yeah.
How is it? After long time.
आप नहीं मिलते हो।
अभी ये दोनों रहे now you rarely come, no? Bombay से कॉफी ले रहे हैं, बस कॉफी ले रहे हैं। Okay. बात
तुम्ही